There's people in the crowd. We have a new champion, and another match is set for Backlash. I'm Hayden from the Broforce, and this is your Monday Night Raw review.
Hey, this is Angel Garza from WWE, and you are watching the Brawl Force.
We open up Raw this week with the Kevin Owens show with Asuka and the three women in the triple threat match tonight. One by one, they all come out, and once they're all out there, Owens goes to the apron because we all know what it means when four people are in an interview segment. It means a fight. There was a fight that broke out because, of course, everybody saw this coming. If you didn't, you've probably never watched wrestling before. We move on to the first match of the night. It is for the United States Championship, Andrade versus Apollo Cruz. When the match starts, we see that Angel Garza is watching backstage, and Apollo has complete control for most of this match. Andrade hits the spinning back elbow to gain a little bit of control, then Apollo immediately gets it back. Zelina gets on the apron, Andrade almost gets thrown into her, but then Apollo Cruz kicks him in the face, and he does go into her. Throughout the entire commercial break on the split screen, Zelina is being checked on by referees and Andrade. Andrade gains back control. There's that double corner hanging draping turnbuckle thing. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You know, the dumbest move in wrestling where they hold themselves up anxiously waiting to be attacked. There's a mid-match interview with Angel Garza, not sure why it happened in the middle of the match, where Garza compares a nice wrestling match to sex, or as he calls it, making love to a beautiful woman. They cut back to the match while Garza is still talking, and he sounds like a narrator basically describing sex as we see a wrestling match happening, and it was hilarious. There's the double knees in the corner, but Apollo Cruz just gets up relatively quickly, hits a standing moonsault, standing shooting star, gets the cover. 1, 2, 3. We have a new United States champion. Apollo Cruz has won his first championship in the WWE. Apollo talks about his win, says everyone doubted him, but he never quit on himself. And we see backstage, Andrade just completely tearing everything up out of pure anger for losing his championship. We come back from commercial to hear Seth Rollins' message. Rollins says he's better than he's ever been thanks to Rey Mysterio. He keeps saying that Rey was sacrificed for the greater good. He talks about how much pain Rey must have been in, describing it, his corneas going back in his head, the blood vessels popping, saying he couldn't even imagine how much pain he was in. Murphy and Theory come into shot, and they both give reasons why they're thankful for Seth in a going around the table on Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for kind of way, showing their allegiance to Seth, how they think they need Seth in their life. This was a very good segment. I'm really enjoying Rollins. This is probably my favorite work that Rollins has ever done, including the old Authority work. We have a Charlotte Flair interview, because that's exactly what I wanted to see on Raw. More Charlotte Flair. We need Charlotte Flair on every single wrestling show, multiple times throughout the night. It's vital to the show's success. Charlotte says she raises the bar for every woman in the division. Asuka dances into shot, says red is not Charlotte's color, and I strongly agree. The Iconics come out, and Billy apologizes for slapping Peyton, and Peyton apologizes for blowing the shot. They start talking about how they should still be tag team champions, and it's clear they're still on the same wavelength. They're not going to split up, thankfully. Alexa and Nikki come out and interrupt. Nikki runs down the Iconics for making fun of her. There's a big brawl. The Iconics stand tall and hold up the women's tag team championships. I assume we'll probably get this match at Backlash. Hope to see the Iconics win that one. We have the VIP Lounge. MVP welcomes the PC talent and brings out Drew McIntyre. Drew immediately trashes the place and asks MVP where Lashley is. MVP says Lashley won't be locking him in a full Nelson until Backlash. He reminds Drew that the last time Drew was on the show, he claymored him. MVP says he will personally play a role in Drew losing the belt. I hope this means, because Lashley's probably not beating Drew. Hopefully he's not beating Drew. I hope MVP just consistently throughout Drew's reign keeps recruiting people just to face Drew and take the belt off of him. And eventually when Drew does lose the title, it's because of MVP. Hopefully a long ways down the line. I hope Drew is champion for a long time. But I would like to actually see MVP recruit a bunch of different people just so that way they can beat Drew McIntyre. Drew says the only way Lashley's getting the title is prying it from his cold dead hands. MVP says that can be arranged. Out comes Lashley. Drew claymores MVP. Lashley takes MVP out of the ring and leaves. Backstage we have a Natalya interview who accepts a call Middle of the interview, Natalya gets her phone out and takes the call from Tyson Kidd. She's horrible at fake phone calls. It was obvious that Tyson Kidd was not on the other line. And then she comes back to continue the interview, and they say they are out of time. We have Kevin Owens versus Angel Garza up next. During Kevin Owens' entrance, Garza runs out and attacks the knee of Owens. Then when the match starts, he delivers a drop kick to the knee immediately. Owens reverses the wing clipper into what Samoa Joe called the Desperation DDT. Owens makes a comeback and goes for a cannonball, but the knee gave out while he was running, so Garza just super kicked him in the face. Owens hit a senton bomb, goes for a pop-up powerbomb, can't hit it. Garza hits the wing clipper, and Garza gets undoubtedly the biggest win of his career so far against Kevin Owens. He has pinned a former Universal Champion relatively clean. Like, outside of that pre-match attack, he won clean as a whistle. This is really big for Angel Garza. I really hope this leads to big things for him. It's time for the gentleman's game of golf between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders bring a cooler full of turkey legs, but they're reminded of golf etiquette and that no food is allowed on the course. Eric, failing to understand the rules of golf, just chucks a golf club and thinks since he got it very far, he must have done good. They beat the crap out of the ground every time they miss the ball. At one point, Ivor just makes a full crater into the ground. Montez hits a trick shot, hole-in-one, bounced off a bunch of different things, but eventually the Viking Raiders hit another golfer with the ball, so they are tossed out, which means they must move on to mini-golf. Ivar uses an actual club in mini-golf, obviously missing the hole by a mile. Montez commentates, quietly of course, because it's golf, Ivar's last shot. They all celebrate when Ivar finally makes it in the hole. The Viking Raiders think they won because they have the highest score, but the Profits win because obviously in golf, lower score wins, making it 2-1 in the anything you can do, I can do better competition. Ivar proceeds to go to pull the ball out of the hole and pulls everything but the ball out. Pulls a solo cup, a turkey leg, a wallet. And then Ivar walks over to a gator, says, "Gator, anything you can do, I can do better." And they have to pull him away from the gator. That's the end of the segment. You know, I didn't much enjoy the basketball game, but I did kind of enjoy the axe throwing competition last week. I loved this. This completely won me over with these segments. I thought this was amazing. I loved it so much. Backstage, Lana gives MVP an ice pack, and MVP says Lashley's career is a joke to Lana. They walk off screen, and Lana does a terribly acted scream per usual. We get one weekly now. It's a vital point of Raw. We have Theory and Murphy, accompanied by Seth Rollins versus Humberto Carrillo and Aleister Black. Theory and Murphy tag out very often in the beginning. Carrillo and Aleister get control until a moonsault reversal from Theory. Rollins is seen outside admiring the mask of Rey Mysterio like it's a prize for him. Carrillo and Aleister quickly get the control back. Black takes down both disciples practically on his own. Murphy pushes Aleister off the top rope. Theory hits the ADL to pin Humberto Carrillo for the win. Rollins orchestrates an attack after the match. Rollins says Humberto needs to learn and goes to do the same thing to him that he did to Rey. He practically held Humberto hostage to stop Aleister, giving Aleister orders to put a chair down, get the chair out of the ring, and he tells them not to make them sacrifice them too, like he was forced to do Rey Mysterio, and he walks out, grabs Rey's mask. We have an Edge promo in a dimly lit room. He says his head is filled with doubt. He talks about how good he was. Heavy emphasis on the word was. He says he doesn't know if he can still be as good as he once was. It's time for the number one contendership triple threat with Nia Jax versus Natalya, and for some reason that I will never understand, versus Charlotte Flair. Asuka is on commentary, and the combination of her and Joe is an absolute gift. Nia body slammed Natalya onto Charlotte, and Charlotte's shoulders were down for longer than 3 seconds, but the ref didn't even acknowledge it, so that bugged me for some reason. Asuka is very excited watching the women beat each other up. She's a very big Natalya fan in this match, constantly rooting for Natalya. Charlotte mocks Natalya's emotionless scream, where she just kind of lifts her hands above her heads and screams with no emotion or soul or passion in her voice whatsoever. Charlotte uses the hood of the announce table as a weapon, the thing with the Raw logo on it that covers it, in case you didn't know what that was. That her and Nia play tug of war with it, and Nia uses it to press Charlotte between the hood and the apron. A double power bomb on the Nia through the announce table. We cut to a surprised Asuka face, absolutely appalled and shocked at what she had just seen. Asuka tosses Nia back into the ring. Nia rolls out later and gets back into the ring, and she doesn't sell the table bump at all. She just took a table bump. She went through a table and she gets up and she's fine. Nothing happened. That also bugged me. Charlotte locks in the figure eight on Nia, but Natalya breaks it up. Natalya locks in a sharpshooter on Charlotte, but Nia breaks it up. We get a Tower of Doom spot, and Nia breaks up a figure four with a leg drop. Samoa drop onto Natalya for the win. We will now get Asuka versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship at Backlash. Should be a decent match. Nice to see Asuka get a big win before probably losing the title to Shayna. Drew McIntyre is interviewed on his way out backstage. Kayla tells Drew that we're getting the Street Profits versus Lashley and MVP later tonight. Drew says he left something in the locker room and he has a feeling he isn't going to find it until after Lashley's match is over. Truth and Gronk released some videos. I wasn't really sure how to feel about this. It was kind of weird. Truth finally realizes that Gronk is the champion, but he thinks he pinned Tom Brady for it, and Gronk gives his own long name for the belt like R-Truth does. He says he has eyes in the back of his head and puts sunglasses on backwards in such a 4-year-old level of humor sort of way. Ric Flair is here from home. He talks about Edge versus Orton and says Orton is the greatest in-ring performer today and that Orton will win. I feel so bad for Edge. He retires for 9 years, and his second match back, they say you have to have the greatest match ever. Oh, by the way, it has to be with Randy Orton. Yeah, the really slow one that doesn't really care anymore and doesn't have good matches in 2020. Yeah, that one. Have the greatest wrestling match of all time with him, please. Liv Morgan is backstage somewhere again, the same place she has been the last couple weeks. She says her biggest stumbling block in life is her own self-worth. She never felt good enough growing up. She said she finally realized what she was missing when she got her first piece of gear, and that now she is living her best life. We have some announcements made for next week's Raw. We have the Street Profits and Viking Raiders bowling, which if you check my Twitter, at Great Lucha Thing, cheap plug right there. If you check my Twitter, you will see a list of things I wanted to see them do. Bowling was one of them. I'm already there. I really want that hot dog eating contest. We're one step closer to the hot dog eating contest. Seth versus Aleister is announced for next week, and Rey Mysterio's retirement ceremony is next week. I'm sure he's not actually going to retire, but if he does, that will be incredibly sad to see it happen in front of nobody. We have our main event of the night, the Street Profits versus MVP and Bobby Lashley. Lashley and Montez start the match. Montez is very confident in his ability to take on Lashley. It's a little back and forth until Lashley gains control for quite a while, until Montez escapes a suplex and tags in Dawkins. They take down Lashley, and Montez tags back in to go for a tope, but Lashley blasts him off the ring apron into the barricade. Lashley picks him up and slams him into the turnbuckle post, and then we go into commercial. When we come back, Lashley and MVP completely dominate for a while until Montez gets the hot tag on Dawkins. Montez tags back in for the spinebuster frog splash combination, but Lashley locks in the full Nelson to break up the pin, and he won't let go, causing the disqualification. The Street Profits win via DQ. Drew McIntyre comes out and makes a save, and there's a big fight. The trainees from the Performance Center come in at the final shot of Raw. Even after they fought off all of these trainees, they had all of them come into the ring, and the final shot of Raw was them both in the classic break up a fight stance that we've seen in the past few years. Both of them pressed into a corner, trying so hard to claw at each other. It was a very good closing shot, and that really got me hyped for Lashley versus McIntyre. Overall, Raw this week was kind of stop and start. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I'd say I'd give it like a 7, maybe a 6 out of 10. I would say probably 7. Sounds more accurate. Really liked the main event, the end shot of Raw. I really liked the golfing. The triple threat was pretty good. I'm really a big fan of Angel Garza beating Kevin Owens. That is huge for him. And it's not just because he's in our intro at the beginning of all our videos. I'm really an Angel Garza fan, I promise. That's all for this week's Raw review. As always, stay tuned for the rest of the weekly reviews. Me and Joe will be doing a top 10 list together tomorrow, so stick around for that. You'll see what it is when it comes out. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and let us know what you thought of this week's Raw.